Our reaction to the 2023 Azerbaijan Grand Prix Sprint Day. Today is a sprint day, the first ever dedicated sprint Saturday. And my God, was it awful. And here to talk about it is Tom Bellingham, the co-founder. Are we going to mince our words, Tommy, or are we going to start talking about how Formula One are potentially ruining the sport?
Maybe that's a bit too...
I know, that was a bit over the top. That was a bit cheeky.
I don't think that was the best example of the new structure. We said they were absolutely loving it yesterday. The fact that it played perfectly into their hands of less practice equals exciting qualifying and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is today has been very much the opposite, where we got a bit of a stinker, I think.
Let's talk about the morning first, because we had lots of action today, Tommy. Well, I say lots of action. We had an hour of Formula One running over the course of today, which is the least we've ever seen for a long time when it comes to Saturdays, because usually we have an hour for FP3 and then an hour for long qualifying. Instead, we had half an hour for short qualifying and half an hour for the race.
The problem is, I didn't hate it. I'm not like really anti doing it. I just think I would have preferred maybe something a little different. It feels strange for me to go into qualifying and then do exactly the same format again. I'm still going to die on this hill that they just do the one lap qualifying from the mid 2000s. Everyone goes out in order, one by one. Then you don't have the problem with part usage and all this kind of stuff. And it also makes it a little bit different. Yeah,
the only variable that was really something that we experienced was the slightly shorter sessions. But, I mean, does that really change much? But the fact that the mediums had to be used in Q1 or SQ1 and SQ2. But I completely agree with you, Tommy. It just felt like we'd already seen it in some ways. And it's very similar.
Same order, right?
Yeah, and it's very similar as well to what we've seen today going into tomorrow. It does feel like some people might say teasers. Other people might say spoilers for what we actually might be able to look forward to. But for me personally, I don't need action all the time. I don't mind having practice. I'm not saying 3 practice sessions, but I don't mind 2 practice sessions, for example, and that lead up to the big Saturday and the big Sunday. Instead, what we had this weekend, which is something that I was a little bit worried about beforehand, was having a big Friday, a Saturday which 8 points are on the line. It's a 17-lap sprint we saw today. And then Sunday, again, is a big Sunday, but have we already seen bits and pieces to be able to figure out, okay, Charles Leclerc's going to be screwed now, and all that sort of stuff that kind of ruins the veil over a Formula One race, the mystery. Do you know what I mean?
Friday was more exciting, wasn't it? I'd say. I'd argue.
I don't like this Saturday. That was my big thing that I was worried about, and I don't think I like it as a... More is less is not the way it is. It's always less is more with Formula One, in my opinion, and you can have too much action. Or too much, let's go and maybe get some action, but have one stint of a Grand Prix where nothing ever happens. Like we see quite a lot of the time in these sprints.
On paper, less practice, mini race. Sounds absolutely perfect. But the reality is, you're having the first portion of a race, no reverse grids, everyone's pretty much on the same tyres. They can go easily to the end. You're in an order where the Red Bulls are at the front because they've qualified. Of course you're not going to get any overtaking. Of course you're not going to get any action. It's not really surprising. The only time you're ever going to get any sprint action for me is when, it's raining or something, because you're actually going to get some kind of variable.
Well, let's get on to the actual race, shall we, and talk about what went on. Even though the first part is Perez taking P1 from Leclerc, which I don't really want to talk about, sort of gives us a very big indication as to what we're going to see tomorrow. And that's a big problem, I think, in some ways. The sprint needs to be so different that it doesn't ruin what could happen in the real race. And I think the ultra softs, or something that is only used for the sprint, is something that then can work alongside the main race, because that's still a little bit different. And I like the way that they were trying SQ1, SQ2 with just mediums. That's something we hadn't seen. So we were like, oh, Charles looking good on the mediums. That was new information for us. So we enjoyed that part. But then as soon as we got to the softs, we went, oh, we'd kind of seen this before. So yes, Perez took P1. But Leclerc was looking very handy for the first sort of 12 or so laps. It seemed like he was going to actually hold on. He had DRS for maybe half of those laps. But then we realised that Verstappen had a hole in his car and Leclerc would have finished easily third if Max didn't have that incident with Russell.
The fact that Max was right on the back of Leclerc with a hole in his car, didn't see that it was that bad until the end. That was a big surprise. But yeah, Leclerc did everything he could. If you look at what happened as well when Perez, the first lap, when Perez didn't have DRS and how quickly he was catching him down the straight. I think you told me afterwards that Russell said that if Mercedes...
Yeah, so Russell joked... Russell joked with a Sky interview and said that, and I think he was being serious in the same sentence, that if Mercedes took off their rear wing completely, Red Bull would still be faster in a straight line by their calculations.
That is mad.
Verstappen versus Russell. So Verstappen, we heard the team radio, didn't we, that he had floor damage. But it turns out he had a massive hole on the left-hand side of his side pod, which I reckon was costing him quite a bit of time. And that was through the collision with George Russell on lap 1. Verstappen was rather furious, was he not, after the race? Actually went and spoke to George, and George kind of apologised, said, look, I've got no grip, and he didn't seem like he was trying to be very combative. But then Max lost the plot a little bit and even called him a D-head, which I'm sure you can fill in the blanks there. For me, as the incident itself, I saw it very much as a racing incident. Max was putting himself in that position, and as George said in his post-race interview, he was actually surprised that Max was continuing to go around the outside. I think we both were when we were watching on the Twitch watch-along. We were going, oh, Max is still there, still trying it on lap 1 with cold tyres and the heaviest the car's going to be in the race. So I would argue that Max kind of put himself in that position in some ways, and it was the tiniest of touches. We're not talking about a big lockup spearing into the side of him. I think he was very unlucky to pick up the amount of damage he did.
Yeah, it wasn't like a George Russell when he did the thing with science. It's very much two cars not wanting to give an inch, and the nature of Baku, you're going side by side into that corner, they're sharp 90-degree turns, and I think Verstappen, it's all right for Verstappen to say, what's he doing on lap 1, trying to, acting like he's got nothing to lose, but that's the thing. Russell does have nothing to lose because he's starting 11th tomorrow. It's not going to affect his race. He's going to try and do something and get a load of points. And
that's even what Max's race engineer said, was that they have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
that's what he literally reminded Max.
But Verstappen does. So that's why I'm so surprised that he didn't just back out and think, you know what? Because Verstappen's easily going to get him on the as soon as DRS is enabled, like we mentioned earlier.
Now, let's move on to a man that I wish to apologise to for the biggest flop in our Thursday prediction video. Of course, I went for Yuki Tsunoda, and wowee, did Yuki Tsunoda have a race. So how it unfolded for him, I didn't see this until I saw it on social media afterwards, was there seemed to be some kind of contact down at turn 3 with Nick de Vries. Nick de Vries, very similar to Verstappen and Russell in the sense of just getting squeezed on the right-hand side towards the wall. And then we, of course, all saw Tsunoda just having a huge amount of understeer, smashing into the wall. Then his tyre fell off and was just rolling down the hill, which was quite comical. But then what was even more comical was Yuki Tsunoda going 45 degrees and just crabbing the whole way round. It was certainly a Saturday to forget for Yuki, and also for AlphaTauri for sending him back out after yeeting himself in the wall.
Yeah, I know. What a bizarre thing to watch his car like crabbing around for an entire lap. But I think the weirdest thing about this new format is he's going to be starting P8 tomorrow, which is going to kind of confuses my brain.
So yeah, sorry Yuki, I think is the main thing coming out of that.
Dare you.
Yeah, maybe I'll go for Yuki next time, I promise. So let's go back to Sprint Day, the format, the new thing. What do we think? We asked you on Twitter, and 78% of you do not like the new format.
Yeah, we asked, did you enjoy Sprint Day? 78% no. If it had been a banger, people would have been like, oh my God, yes. But The problem for me is it's so rare for it to be a banger, because realistically, how? The only way we're going to get a banging sprint race, I think, is if it rains in the morning session and you get a mixed up grid, because then you're going to see people overtaking. But there's just not enough variety in there for it to work.
Crazy Nairo comes in with a question. Thoughts on whether you prefer last year's sprint format or this year? I actually think I prefer last year's. One, because it wasn't just action all the time, but mainly because it's all rolled into the same weekend. I'm not a fan of 2 race weekends in one, which is essentially what this is. This is its standalone thing. Saturday is Saturday and that's it. And I'm not a fan of that.
No, I completely agree. It's a weird one that you just have this mini weekend all condensed into essentially a miniature Formula One for the TikTok generation, 30 minutes, super over really quick. But the problem is there's no action.
The final question comes in from @ijo345. The question needs to be, would you rather watch free practice for 2 hours or a sprint race for 30 minutes? Oh my God, what am I think I'm about to say I'd rather watch cars on track for 2 hours than a sprint race for 30 minutes. I guess it's an hour fully.
No, I don't know. It's weird though, because the
I
expectation...
I want a mixture. You know what I mean?
I'd say this now. Yeah, you'd say it now, but absolutely in 3 weeks' time, you get this question again. You're like, nah, give me those 5 red lights coming on. I'm going to be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, but we come back to the less is more argument.
Yeah.
How if you see those 5 red lights too many times, even in Australia, we're like, oh, I got another red flag. Are you kidding me? Too much of a good thing, Tommy, makes it less good.
True.
If the drivers are angry about it, that's where you have to really listen as well, because the drivers and the fans both go, nah, this isn't right. You gotta change it somehow. We'll be live on Twitch, Matt P1 Tommy, for our Sunday race watch along. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully Charles Leclerc can do something magical, although I have absolutely zero hope after what I saw today. And we'll see you tomorrow for all of that action. Bye.